I don't know how it is where you live, but here in the South, we start getting itchy fingers this time of year. We want to be outside planting and getting our hands dirty. Not the best idea. It's a little early. We're getting spoiled with a few weeks of weather in the 60s and 70s, and it's tempting to get out there and dig holes and plant things that are going to be beautiful this spring. Not the best idea to plant yet, but there's a few things that this is the right time to do. Let's get into some spring lawn care preparation. The first thing I want to talk about are the plants in the yard that need to be cut back. I have this gorgeous snowball bush, or it's an Annabelle Hydrangea. You may pronounce that differently than me, but that's the way I was taught to say it. It is beautiful in the spring, summer. It has these huge snowballs on it, big clusters of white blooms. And I once had a lady say, how do you know how to do that? How do you make that happen? If you've been around the channel long enough, you know I don't have the greenest of thumbs, but this I have learned. This time of year, it's about the first week of March, I cut that hydrangea back about 11 inches long. I just take really sharp pruning shears and snip off all of those, and usually I burn the chaff or the waste that comes off of that. It's pretty dry and crunchy by this time of year. You could mulch it or use it for compost or something like that. I usually just burn it. And what that does is that allows the regrowth to come up even stronger. And every year that I do that, I have really full, huge white blooms on this beautiful antique hydrangea. It may have been here for 70 years or more, and it is just gorgeous. It's ginormous. It's a really happy hydrangea. So if you're itching to get outside this time of year, that's one thing that you can do. Also, thinking about cleaning up the yard and cutting back plants so that they can grow. Any ornamental grass that you have, this is the time that you want to do that. If you have a big, huge, established plant in your yard that's ornamental grass, it's good to bind that up with rope and tie it. And my secret is to use a sawzall, like a reciprocating saw that you would use in construction. Put a really fine blade on that, and you can work your way right through the base of that ornamental grass, whether it be pampas grass or whatever. Wear gloves. That stuff is sharp as all get out, and you will slice your hands up, not the sawzall. Okay, it's sharp too, but I'm talking about the grass itself. It will eat you alive. So wear gloves, but you can just bind it up, take that sawzall, go right through it like butter. Then you can compost or remulch or burn all of that dead or dormant growth that you've taken off, and you're ready to provide fresh growth for the spring. Now, my favorite grass is Liriope, or some people call it Liriope or Liriope. I'm from the South. I call it Liriope. I love this stuff. I bought my first plants, just a handful of them, 22 years ago when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. We didn't have money to spare for plants, so I literally prayed over each one of these little Liriope flowers or Liriope grass plants as I planted them in a row. And then I found out it really is hard to kill them. If you're hard on plants, or if you have pets or kids that trample all of your plants outside, Liriope is definitely the way to go. The only thing I do for those this time of year, the beginning of March, I whack them down to the ground. When I was young and scared that I was going to kill these plants, I actually took really sharp pruning shears or garden shears out there and cut them all the way down to the ground by hand. I had blisters all over my hands, but I didn't want to kill these precious plants. And I heard all of these read all of these posts and all of this literature about you need to make clean cuts on plants or they'll become diseased. Well, I'm here to tell you with Liriope, I really don't think that's the case, at least not where I live. I'm sure there are plants that are more prone to being diseased if they have jagged cuts, but this Liriope grass and ornamental grass, you don't have to worry about with it. I actually moved on once they are thriving, and I have dug those up, divided them by the roots, planted them everywhere. Our landscape is full of this Liriope now. And I've actually moved on to just mowing them down on the lowest setting this time of year. Doesn't hurt them a bit, just to whack them off all the way to the ground, and they come up even bigger and stronger in just a few weeks when you'll see those little green heads poking through the ground, and the flowers are beautiful in the summer. So Liriope, you can whack it to the ground. If you have an area, like we have mulched areas or natural areas where I really don't want to pull the mower up there and go over the plants, I've even taken the weed eater, the weed whacker, and shaved them down to the ground with that. And I know there are people with green thumbs and people that love plants that are saying, how could you do that? I've never had a problem, and it sure beats getting blisters all over my hands. One other thing I will mention this time of year, it's a little too early to start planting, but we've had a few weeks of warm weather, mild weather, and I have a tall fescue in the backyard, a tall turf type grass that likes the cool weather. It's a cool weather fescue. It's gorgeous, and I try to take good care of it. And in the summer, I mow it a little bit higher because it likes to be about 4 inches tall. All tall fescues do. And that helps it to shade. Each little piece of grass, if you think about it, is its own plant. And if they're tall, they can shade each other. They hold moisture better. All of those are good things to do when it's hot outside in the summer. This time of year, the first few mows that I do, first few mowings I do, take it pretty short. I'll go 2.5 or 3 inches to take off those dormant tops of the plants, of the grass, kind of wake it up, let it get lots of sunlight, expose it to the air, and I think that really helps give it a boost. I wouldn't mow it that short in the summer, but now's the time you can start waking up your yard. I know I said that was the last thing, but there's one important thing that drives me bananas, and I used to think the same way. But this time of year, early spring, is not the time to plant grass seed. It's not the time to seed because that seed is going to be competing with the weeds that are starting to break through. This is the time that you want to use a pre-emergent herbicide on your lawn to keep the weeds from growing during the summer. If you plant your grass seed and you have your pre-emergent down too, well, what that pre-emergent does is coat and puts a barrier between those seeds so that the weeds can't come up. Well, guess what? Your grass won't come up either. So use pre-emergent this time of year to keep the weeds from coming up. Then in the fall, that's when you want to seed your lawn, overseed or reseed. That way you're not competing with all those weeds. You've already used your pre-emergent. In the spring, those weeds are dormant. They're going to behave. You don't have to water as much further on in the fall because it's cooler, and the ground is going to keep that water a lot longer. So in the spring, this time of year, pre-emergent. In the fall is when you want to seed. Happy spring, guys. It's almost here. I'm going to be working on a project with all of these eggs here in a little bit, and I'll share that with you toward the end of the week. A great project for doing spring window boxes. In this video, I did winter window boxes, and it's taken me all the way through Christmas until now. Really, I could keep them in there, and I am going to keep some of the regular feeler in there, the neutral colored feeler, but I'm going to go ahead and pull out those red berries. It's a little too Christmassy now. It looked great for Valentine's Day. Now it's time to add a little spring and Easter pizzazz. So look for that toward the end of the week. And also in the next couple of days, I'm going to be sharing some more duck cam footage of our ducklings. They are growing. Oh my goodness, they have quadrupled in size since that first the first 5 days duckling video. I'll put a link to it up here too. But I want to give you a quick update. It'll be a no commentary video, just you enjoying the sights and sounds of the ducklings, so you and your grandkids and neighbors and friends can all enjoy that together. Thanks so much for joining me. Happy spring cleaning and getting those yards ready for spring. It's just around the corner. Be blessed, and I'll see you next week.